Yo, yo, yo. Hey, I'm Mark Buckner with the Mark Buckner Group and the Ben Lawless team. And today I am here with Will Hazen.
Yes, sir.
Will Hazen. And today I want to talk about the mistakes young brokers typically make
Hmm.
early in their career. And and part of the reason why I want to talk about it is I do participate in the philosophy that you got to crawl before you walk,
Yeah.
you got to fail before you succeed. Like I use that phrase in the gym all the time when I try to go for a new personal record and I fail. Like it's the only way you can really kind of push forward. And I think any industry, any career, you're going to learn as you go along, and during those times, you're going to have make some mistakes and some failures.
100%.
So, t- before we dive into that, tell these people a little bit about yourself. How long you been in the business? How'd you get in the business? Where you from? Let's give the skinny on the Will.
Yeah, no. So I'm Will. I grew up in Aspen, Colorado, which is quite the real estate market I've seen firsthand, and I've been in real estate in Chicago 4 years, going on my fourth year now. Went to the University of Wisconsin, and always kind of knew that how I operate and kind of intrinsically like what my personality offers, that this type of work would be better suited for me. And so having, experience with my dad being a broker for 40 plus years back home, kind of turning lights on and off through listings as a kid, to mentoring in college under brokers there, and then just kind of making that leap. That's how I found my way to you.
So, finish college. What do we do after college?
Finished college, took a nice 3 month um, summer off, I guess you'd say,
All
just
right.
like not doing much back in Madison. And then when my first lease started to come August 1 in Chicago was when I took the real estate exam essentially. So I guess during the summer I was studying, but
So, finish college. You're going to become a broker right away.
hmm
Why? Like, I don't think it's the path most people take.
no, I don't. And I think it's also something that people are scared of as well.
I, I,
Um,
I would agree with that.
yeah, like having not a lot of financial knowledge and freedom in college, then jumping into something that's totally commission based is some people might say crazy. But I always knew this is what I wanted to do. I saw what kind of lifestyle and work that my dad was able to build just growing up as a kid around him, and I would rather uh, grind at 22 years old and take the leap then than look back in 10 years and get started in my 30s.
So why not go to Aspen? Why not go work for the old man?
I get that one a lot. Aspen's an amazing town. It's turned into quite the accumulation of wealth, I should say. So the real estate market's great, but um, there isn't really a strong mid 20s to mid 30s population. Um, I have this drive to like create something of my own, and I love the Midwest. I don't know why, but my dad's from Wisconsin. I went to a University of Wisconsin. Like I just fell in love with the Midwest.
So what kind of conversations did you have with, I mean, your father's, I'm assuming your first mentor.
For sure.
So what kind of conversations, and let's be realistic. What I've heard through the grapevine in the office, because Will's at part of the Ben
Yeah.
Lawless team, is that the old man's a baller there. Like he's straight up kills it in Aspen.
He's a baller for sure. I mean, he's done it 40 plus years, but I mean, he moved to Aspen straight out of college when it really was not much more than a mining town. It was still certainly, the 70s, and Aspen was a crazy time, but it really wasn't luxury by any means. And my dad, he didn't come from a lot. He's the epitome of someone that I've seen like had to build their own, and the epitome of hard work, um and that just kind of like, and he's just a hard ass. So he taught me everything I needed to know and to do, and what it means to work hard. And so that's kind of how I've found myself here.
So, what were the conversations with your father when you're like, hey, one is what did you study in college?
Economics.
Oh, what a great degree for this.
Versatile, baby.
Oh, yeah. Uh, God, I think if I could repeat, I don't have regrets, but boy, I wish I had more econ in my background versus what I've had to develop post college. Uh, but tell me the conversation with dad about going into business.
Yeah, I mean, it was a two-sided thing, right? So he was fully supportive of me. I think he was like
Boy,
excited and proud. He's like, "You're doing everything that I did. Like I must have done something right," type deal. But um, at the same time, he was like, I this is all you. Like I don't, you're out of college. Everything's on you. I don't, I got your back as a father, but like you gotta grind and make something of your own. Like I'm not gonna hold your hand. I'm not gonna subsidize like all this stuff.
but tell me the conversation of dad. I'm thinking about doing this. Should I come? He didn't say,
Mm.
"Why aren't you coming back to Aspen?
He did
Why
for
aren't you
sure, for sure.
working for me? I can use another runner." Like,
Yeah,
why? Like, tell me about that conversation.
yeah,
That's what I'm, you know,
yeah. No,
curious about. Like, as a father myself with two young adult children knocking on the door of 18 and 21,
oof.
I'd be like, you know,
Yeah,
why
no, I
there?
mean,
Why not here? I can make it easier for you.
for sure. I think that, I mean, it was and still is a conversation we have, a couple times here and there. But you know, he at the end of the day, he was just so like willing and accepting for me to want. I think he was proud that I wanted to create my own business and my own, name and brand and whatever you might call it. And you know, it's tough because obviously I think he wanted me to come back. I think he wanted me to kind of step into a role where maybe I could enter and he could exit. As he is, he turned 75 last month, so I always tell him that he needs to stop working altogether. Um, but for two reasons: one, he can't really let go of the sociability of his clients. He loves his clients. He loves working for them. He's built a huge network of really cool people. And I think that there's another part that he still hopes, like, if he does another year or so, that maybe it'll be just the right time where I might be willing to come back.
What will it take for you to come back?
Time.
What do you mean? What do you need with time?
I mean, I love the city that I'm in right now. I'm enjoying myself, and I'm still so fresh and so young, and I have so many things to learn before I, would be able to go back and settle down and kind of step into the role that he has crafted for so long. Does that make sense or no?
It kind of makes sense. Uh, it's funny. I'm having, and this is the part of interviewing that I love right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like now, I'm starting to forget the camera's even on.
Sure.
So yesterday, I jacked up my knee,
Oh boy.
uh, and it was from squatting. And every time I go into squat, my knees feel sore and they ache. But my mentality is always like, just got to get warmed up, and they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And they got warmed up, felt good. We were doing some heavy lifts and different types of squatting, and showered up, put my jeans on, started walking to the car. I was like, that doesn't feel right.
Mm.
That feels a little weird. And I've never had that happen. But the older that I get, the more I realize, like I'm sounding like an old fart, which I realize. But you realize more and more how precious this time is,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like me fast forward going into Will's age. What are you, 25?
26.
26. I always felt like, and here I am. I'm sounding like my father. I'm sounding like my grandfather's. Like, you don't appreciate time. And I'm not saying that, but it's like, and I'm like many people, I'm in real estate coaching. One thing that I'm talking about right now, heavily mid-quarter right now, is what are my 5-year goals? Where do I want to be? I'm just turned 57. So in 5 years, 62, what do I want to see my business at? And what am I doing with my business? And so my thought for you is like, where do you want, how much time do you need? And what do you need to accomplish in that? and maybe setting a 3 or 5 year goal to determine that.
Sure.
Because what you don't want to happen is something bad happens to the old man and you don't have that opportunity. You
Right.
don't have that transition
Yeah.
and you're not shooting for it. And I'm not, all of a sudden I'm really found, boy, we may have gone through a really freaking nosedive here. I'm schooling Will here.
I think this is good.
Which is not the purpose, but
Yeah.
it's just this kind of different generation of thinking. And as I reflect, if one of my kids wanted to go into the business, I do think it's awesome that you're going out to make it on your own and getting the skill set versus here comes that kid where everybody will be thinking like, oh, the old man just handed this off to him.
Right.
So I think that's admirable to do that. I guess my thought in listening to you is setting some goals, because if that's something that you're really considering, then what do I need to accomplish within the time? Because that's what you said.
Yeah.
I need time. Well, I love the city. Well, yeah, Chicago's a great city. I agree with that. I love it. I've born and raised here, but Aspen's amazing too.
Right.
Utah's amazing. Wyoming's amazing. Like all these places and destinations are great. So back flipping the script, what do you think you need to accomplish?
Yeah. No, I mean,
What do you need to finish with time?
I think that's an important question for newer agents too, is to like figure out. It's something I didn't do and plan for more than the next couple months or the next quarter or year even. I haven't really found myself thinking much more than a year ahead until I kind of joined Ben's team and we did this whole, business plan where you're told to envision yourself 5 and 10 years down the road. And so I think really for me, if I'm, as I've been looking back on it this year, I want, 5 good years of production and real estate experience, but I also, it's hard to restart in real estate and it's hard to start in real estate, period. So I want to
no
gain
doubt.
some level of financial freedom that I could make a move and not make the same mistakes I made out of the gate as a new realtor in Chicago.
Yeah. And a few things comment on that because you said a lot. One is shout out to Ben.
Yeah.
I did his business planning we did it what?
December.
December?
Mm-hmm.
Like right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, the best business planning I've ever done. And I've been in coaching with Tom Ferry for 4 years. This is no hit against my coach, but he did it as a team. We grinded it on a Friday night from like 6 to 9. I think I was there till 9:30. Drinks
Yeah.
we were supposed to go out for drinks.
Yeah.
I never made it. It was like 9:30 past my bedtime. I
Yeah.
got my business plan set. I was like, I'm out of here. And then the team did a re-meet July 3rd,
Yeah, so I think now we're doing a reflection every quarter.
which I didn't make that because I was on vacation, but I thought that was also amazing
Mm-hmm.
to hold the team accountable to do that. So what is your 5-year goal then?
My 5-year goal was really production based, and it remained in Chicago.
And what's the production? What
I
are you
think-
hoping to hit in 5 years?
I think we were hoping to do like in the 25 million range.
So year 4, by the time the end of the year, you want to have 25 mil in sales.
5 years from now, or
Five-
from
your-
December,
Your 4th year or your 5th year, you want to do 25 mil.
the 5th year.
25 mil.
Yeah.
Do you have a path of how it's going to get you there?
Constantly changing path, evolving. I think the biggest benefit to these quarter reviews that we do of our business plan is reflection and figuring out how to pivot some things that aren't working for you. So I had a major step in my business plan that I just realized I wasn't, as my business has grown this year, I wasn't able to commit to, and it also just like it was causing me time that was better spent elsewhere. So these reflections are
What is
helping
it?
me pivot. So I was prospecting canceled and expired listings every morning, 5 days a week.
For
And
how long? How much time a day?
usually from like 9 to 11. And it, as someone who's not from Chicago, it's a great way to learn how to handle objections and try and grow your book of business. But I found that it was taking away from some more pressing, like current um, time blocking where clients were in need of communication. So I pivoted to, doing that 3 days a week and setting time blocks for Tuesday and Thursday where it's strictly lead follow up and some other activities that were allowing me to work more efficiently instead of just longer hours.
I like it.
It's just, I mean, this is a value we're getting. It's like I've never done any sort of reflection to this standard before.
Right on. So we were talking about in there when I said I wanted to unpack that a little
Yeah.
bit. You said mistakes.
Yeah.
Tell me about one of it, unless you want me to go first.
Yeah, please.
I
No.
did say I'd go first.
Yeah.
God. So I've been in this industry 12 years. I would say probably, and I got in this business different than you. I would say my biggest mistake or oversight was not picking up the phone enough.
Okay. And what do you mean by that?
I mean, like anything from just getting a new lead. I used to advertise heavily in Zillow and get a new lead. I'd call it once or twice, text a few times, and then I'd get busy with other stuff and I'd forget it. So I didn't have a system for lead follow up, and I was gun shy just to pick up that phone. And
Okay.
I still have to. I talked about it on my coaching call today. Like I made a bunch of. Excuse me. There's that. What is it called?
Malort?
Malort. That's coming up. Uh, I even talked to my coach today. Like yesterday, after our huddle, I made probably 35 texts and calls within an hour, and I probably had engagement of 35%, and I felt great afterwards.
Yeah, that's a good number.
But it was also that's why on the huddle I asked Ben, what were you texting?
Right.
If you did it, what were you texting? How are you doing it?
Yeah.
I still get too far in the weeds in texting. Today, I followed up with a lot of buyers that were kind of getting burnt out with the intensity of the market. And I still had to stop myself from over communicating, whether it's a phone call or a text. You overthink it.
100%.
So probably first rookie move out of the gate would have that's definitely one of them. I think another rookie move related to calling, and that's your pivot here, is we go through a transaction and it's super intense when we start with our buyer clients, right? And also with your listings too. It's super intense when they're shopping, when you go under contract, during the attorney review period. And then after that, there's usually about a 30-day period where you're not communicating with them.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't.
Okay, you go. Yeah.
And like I was busy and I wasn't setting up, I wasn't time blocking, I wasn't reminding myself, I wasn't picking up the phone just to say, hey, how you doing?
Right.
You excited? Are you packing? What do you need to pack? Do you need a mover? Whatever it may be, that level of service that I just didn't have the bandwidth. I wasn't putting myself in my client's shoes enough early on in my relationships in the industry.
Yeah.
And once again, it just goes back to calling your clients.
So let me ask you, when you now are calling and texting, they could be current clients, past clients, or just your sphere of family and friends. When you're checking in, what are you saying?
It's different, and it's something that's still evolving for me. Today with current buyers, like I went through a couple of their collections, they were really messy because I make sure people get the closed and pendings and contingent, because my goal, if you're shopping, when we start a search, I include those. So as something goes under contract, you can see like, because I want my clients always to learn the market with me, not just believe me. I want them to start to look at data, understand the market, be informed. So when it comes time to write on that property, you feel more comfortable and confident. But if you're looking for 6 months, all of a sudden that collection is filled with listings, contingent, closed,
Mm-hmm.
pending.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really messy. I think you go in there, you're overwhelmed, you gloss over, and you're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
So
You see contingent,
today it was
contingent.
kind of just cleaning it up, give them a buzz, seeing if I reach them, cleaning it up. Had a client had a baby, just checking in, how's it
Sure.
being, adjusting as a parent. Yesterday, I just went through new contacts that are tagged that are in the stage of sphere and friends. Bunch of people I've met at parties over the
Yeah.
year, guys that I've met on new ski trips, and just texting like, "Hey, how's the summer going?" Getting my brain's, my brain's thinking about snow for this
Right.
season. You
Right.
win, like just kind of like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
Uh, so it really depends.
Yeah. No, I think this is important because um, this was I was lucky enough before I became a broker in Chicago to have really good mentors just that I had known over the years and picked their brains about. And they say, hey, like when you when you're a broker and you start to pick up a client or you're, calling your sphere or checking in with people, it can't be transactional. It can't be, hey, in real estate. Do you need anything? Or, you know, when you're checking in with people, you're checking in with them on a personal level. Like, what's new in your life? What's going on? Catch me up. If there's a new baby, give me a picture like Ben did the other day.
Yep.
I think that those are huge value adds. And I see a lot of agents when they join our team or are new to the business, the first step is to kind of make it known what you're doing. But if you call everyone and tell them you're in real estate and you're a realtor and can you help, like no one gives a shit.
Yeah, it can become awkward. I think the important part, and it is for me, like I just enjoy, like you talked about your dad. He just loves the social component,
Yeah.
and so do I. Like my wife. There's often these debates. Like I'm like, what are we doing this weekend? Or like we haven't seen so and so in weeks. We haven't seen this other group. Friends from different sections of our lives, and it's just like, hey, like August is looking kind of bare. Let's plan some dinners at the house. And she's just like, well, can't we just sit around? I was like, what are we going to do? Sit around? We sit
Right.
around every night.
We can do
How
that
many nights can
whenever.
we sit around? Like,
Sure.
let's go. So
Yeah.
like, I enjoy that social component. So I do enjoy uh, just checking in and kind of, I think if you're really sincere about like, really, what's it like your first 2 months as a parent? Like, I know what it's like.
Yeah.
It's a freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
Uh, it's hard. It's hard work. Like you have to find a new level of grinding without sleep and giving yourself and as a male, giving myself not just to that child, but to my wife, who's really in infancy stage, is really doing the bulk of the work
Sure.
all the time. So
Yeah.
it's just like, you know, uh, yeah. So biggest mistake. What's one of them, baby?
Yeah, I mean, there's too many to count probably, but looking back on my first year and picking up new clients, I think that something I wish I did better, and it's all hindsight, right? But learning how to set expectations. Um, so from picking up a new client to I didn't have a good enough awareness of what the market was doing, what the process is going to look like. I looked at it as like, hey, I got a new client. I just got to make this work however it's going to happen. And I think that just doesn't lead to a high conversion ratio and a high chance of like actually doing the job that they're asking you to do. So I didn't have a good enough awareness of the market. I didn't have a good awareness of the product we were looking at, and I think it was a huge mistake because I wasn't delivering the service that I am now. And I know it comes with time, but I think you have to have a willingness as a new agent to learn those things before you get thrown into the deep end.
Tell me more about understanding the market, knowing the market.
Yeah, so like for instance, if I even if it was a rental, if I got into a multiple application situation, I don't know how I'm going to generate a price that makes sense and what your odds of success are and what terms may be valuable to the owner or the seller. Or if I was early in my career and somehow got a buyer under contract and we get an inspection report, like understanding mechanicals and types of brick and like all these things that could cause them real life issues, I probably wasn't aware enough of what those could be and what we were looking at to give the most informative decision. So like
So understanding, so one is when you say understanding market, I'm thinking market data.
100%. Yeah.
Uh, you're talking, so you're talking both,
Both kind
understanding
of
the
in a
market
gray area.
data, so to determine value, but then
Mhm.
understanding uh, construction, so you can determine
Yeah, I think just
cost projections for future repairs.
yeah, or if there's like something that's a huge concern, or if something's cookie cutter, whatever. But speaking generally, with whether it was market data and understanding, if inventory is down, it's basic econ, which I studied, but I didn't really apply it because I didn't. I was so focused on trying to make deals happen, and not so focused on the process that it takes to
Yep.
give myself the best chance to do that.
Yep.
And so, generally speaking, I think that was learning before acting was something I didn't take advantage of.
Yeah, there's God, there's two things me and my wife just and I talked about that, but I think probably I think what's crucial for a new agent and seasoned agents is always knowing your market,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
knowing the market, what's going on. Leonard Steinberg did you read his email today?
Mm-hmm.
What was it about?
Yesterday, the
I'm talking today's email.
Momentum Monday or whatever.
No. He talked about little snippets that you're seeing in the market and noting them and trying to understand where that's headed,
Okay.
because that's insight into where the market's going being be-
Okay.
instead of not paying attention to those, and then all of a sudden 4 or 5 months go down the line and there is a big shift and you're like, oh my God, holy shit. When
Sure.
there were some certain signs he talked to, that was his email
It's like
today.
forecasting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like forecasting, but picking up on the small signals to
Mm.
forecast. Ben's really good at that and talks about that in huddles. And now I've gone down a rabbit hole
Yeah.
because, yeah, absolutely. Like reading the market, understanding the market, being absorbed with it, obsessed with it is probably what helped me this year help so many buyers win in buying a single family home
Mm-hmm.
because I was so attuned to what it was for a buyer of a single family home price anywhere from 700 to 1.2 million, what it's going to take to win.
Yeah.
Educating them out of the gate. I've put my buyers on a fast track buying process to empower them, and it's worked to help them win. And because in the past I wouldn't be as aggressive in educating, and that was okay then, but in today's market if I wasn't doing that, they write 2 3 times, get burned out, throw out their hands, which is a waste of their time, waste of my time. And the worst part of that is if they pick it up next year, it's still going to cost them more money. And that was
Right.
what was most disturbing for me
Mm-hmm.
in trying to educate them. And the only way is by studying the market, knowing how much less inventory was in the market. And that's a big part of about Ben's preaching and training for the team is using data to help our clients understand, which takes me into probably one of my mistakes. I wouldn't say it was a mistake. It was just not having enough coaching early on.
Yeah.
Uh, and we did some of this, I think, during the business planning a little bit. We touched on it. I've touched on it a lot in my real estate coaching. And I've touched on it in here. I think Remy and I talked about it, is understanding your client's personality and what your client needs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use anything for that?
You know, that is certainly could be an area of growth. I think that I do a good job of trying to categorize my clients
Yep.
based on if they're analytical or if
Yep.
they're, whatever it may be. And that's kind of dictates how I'm going to articulate to them and what I'm going to throw at them, whether it's this crazy in-depth analysis with, info
Exactly.
sparks and all this stuff, or whether they just kind of want me to send them what they want and they're going to be a little passive and they might not ask the right questions. But, um, I think.
So what? So we're talking disc profiles, right?
Yeah.
So what are you?
I've done it twice on both real estate teams that I have been on, and both times I was not in the same space. Um, Remind me what the four.
So I use the birds analogy, right?
Okay.
Eagle, he's the hunter. Eagle's the driver.
Yeah, driver.
The owl, analytical.
Mm-hmm.
The dove is super pleasing, takes things kind of slow, consistent, and then the parrot, who is like the partier of the whole situation, right?
Okay.
Chatty bird.
Yeah. Um, Man, I think that um part of me is super analytical. I'm numbers driven in a lot of ways, whether it be like my production or looking at graphs for determining offer strategies or whatever. Like I'm always just trying to find nuances in analytics. But I also think that um, at the end of the day, I really do try and please and like create a positive experience. So it's kind of that right to left diagonal on that four squared map, and I find myself somewhere in the middle. Um, can I guess what you are?
Sure.
Somewhere between driver and analytical.
I'm as high as the driver as you could possibly
Yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah,
There is definitely the analytical component to it, but I come out blazing.
yeah.
I want production. I want to keep the process moving. I'm frank to a fault because I sometimes can't just sit on my words and just
Right.
let people get through it. Just I bulldoze ahead.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. No, but I
it's-
mean, I think in being a real estate agent, you have to have some level of driver.
yeah, you gotta. You have
or
to.
else, you know.
There's definitely a lot of analyticals in the industry, which is key and important. But I think you're right. Is probably that I didn't have that skill set, and you're getting that skill set so early in your career, which I think is crucial of being able to. And I don't want people to think like we're categorizing people, but it's like really understanding that to really help somebody, you have to be a good listener.
Mm-hmm,
And if you're a good listener, you're going to pick up on what they need and you're going to give them. And having some, prior to this, I was a therapist and we used different treatment modalities to kind of help you organize. We did diagnosing. We diagnosed to help organize the symptoms so then you can come up with a better treatment modality.
Yeah.
And that's why this industry was so transferable for me, is
Sure.
because it's really understanding what they need, organizing that data, organizing how they present to give them the interventions that they need, meanwhile still trying to guide them to make a really good decision on purchasing or selling,
Yeah,
whatever it
I mean
may
it's a
be.
huge, huge life step.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge psychological component of, like you said, gathering the right plan, but also how you deliver it to that person versus your other client who might not enjoy any of how you just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll just gloss over and just see a bunch of numbers. Or if I'm really just trying to provide support and comfort, to be like, it's not how I make decisions. I don't need you to hold my hand.
Exactly.
So any mistakes with listings have you done? How many have you done?
Yeah.
Where you're at in that stage of your
Yeah.
career?
So being in my fourth year, I haven't done a ton of individual listings. I've worked on a fair amount as like a co-list agent.
Yep.
I think that one that comes to mind, which is actually one I was working with you about, is when we were lucky enough to receive multiple offers, and I was compiling data for you and I to present to our clients, and my recommendation, the trigger in my brain was like, this is the strongest offer because it was the biggest, most attractive number, and it was going to potentially net them the most money. However, I did not take the time to dig into like the financial security of that person, or all these other qualifying factors, because I thought it was just such a good offer. And you kind of took me aback, and you're like, why do you think that's the best offer to present to them, like our recommendation? And I told you, and you go, well, what about this, this, and this? And I was like, so Mark, you're telling me like um, these factors are just important as price because was so caught up in that one shiny figure. Um, and so I think that, analyzing just from an offer perspective, like the holistic view of everything we're getting, not just the most attractive number, what you really helped me see, like, there are other things that are going to be really important to our clients aside from netting the best number. And that part of that was like vetting their financial security and their job. This was on a rental listing, but I think it applies to
I was
both.
going to say, like, I don't even remember this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that you say rental listing, I think I do recall. I don't recall what property. I don't recall, but I do recall some of that. That's funny. But yeah, yeah. Really, I think the longer you're in the business, the more you can. I tell even my clients, like, it's not just the price. It's what are the terms, and who is most likely going to take this to the closing table. I say it all the time, like getting an application for a rental, getting a contract, that's not the hard part of the job.
Mm-mm.
The hard part of the job is getting it to the closing table, getting your clients property closed and the money in their bank. I just went on a listing appointment the other day, and I told them, you're not paying me to get you the contract. You can go out and get the contract.
Yeah.
You're paying me to take it to the closing table to get the money into your bank.
Yeah.
Like right now we have a listing 1.6. We had 5 offers on it. It's a great listing. It was an awesome house, but there was a leak, and we're out of attorney review period. And the buyer is an attorney. She's a commercial real estate attorney. She is busting my chops the whole way
Sure.
along the way. And probably there's a few things that helping us. There's a few things that's saving us. One is a good attorney who really knows the law. So as they push back as their anxiety goes up about this leak and pushes on me, how much we can push back on that. We've been fully transparent on it. I brought in a roofer immediately. I got on the roofer immediately. I FaceTime with my roofer. We got the repairs done immediately. FaceTime with him during repairs, and we have pre and post photos. Excuse me. Now that buyer, I think, wants to bring in their own home inspector, wants to
Of
see where the
course.
leak is at. I suspect their next play is going to want to put a moisture reader on it. And at some point in time, this is where you're paying a really good attorney. And you got to have those that work with you and will work collaboratively with us, because we are the eyes and ears of the field. We put the deal together to know the language, to know how far we can push back and not push back and keep the deal alive or kill it. And kind of that's where we're at, is setting a firm boundary and be like, hey, this is where it's at. We've made a repair. We've been fully transparent we've responded immediately. We let you know of the leak. We've brought in a seasoned, fully licensed, incredible roofer, probably the best roofer that I know, who I've introduced you to.
Yeah.
And we're fully transparent, and we're paying for it. And the leak was really, really minor, but we've gone above and beyond. So, really kind of having resources, taking the big picture and knowing who's going to take it to the closing table, being able to select those winners.
I think it's funny. I used to like almost celebrate when I got something under contract because I thought it was like, we did it. We're almost there. And one of the first things you told me, like one of the first times I truly met you and picked your brain a little bit, was when you get something under contract, the work starts then.
Yeah.
You're not even close.
Yeah. No.
And I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And then I started to get more and more deals under contract on the buy side and the list side, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. The first time you have a deal or listing fall apart,
It kills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, probably, so I'm going to dive into two more things. Two things, probably. I'm going to talk about listing is taking a listing when the seller wants to overprice.
Right.
I have done it various times early in my career. I will not do it anymore.
Yeah.
We can negotiate on somewhere in the middle. I will do it if there's a plan to get to my price within a certain amount of time, like
Mhm.
2 weeks, 3 weeks, then we're dropping the price. Otherwise, I've done it, and and you and I've had this conversation.
We actually
went,
just did
yeah,
one of these.
we went through it, right?
Yeah.
And we were only $9,000 over my preferred list price.
Yeah.
And you walk them through it, but more times than not, what happens is the seller gets upset,
Mhm.
and there's going to be a fall guy,
Yeah.
and it's the listing agent who's the fall guy.
Every time.
Meanwhile, you get fired. They go find a new agent who then tells them your list price. They go on the market, and typically it sells then.
Right.
And all you did is waste time and money, create a bad name for yourself in front of somebody. Excuse me, I'm spitting again. And it's horrible. And I God, probably the worst one was in my neighborhood. And it was a friend, not a close friend, and his wife was really struggled with the process and got pretty verbally abusive.
Mhm.
And I just would set limits and boundaries. They didn't fire me. I kind of fired them.
Yeah.
And it was just because it was unhealthy.
Right.
It was just unhealthy. And they got their price, but they waited 3 years to get their price. And taxes for that house were about $22,000. So instead of taking a lower price, they took 3 years to get there, which cost them
Yeah, I
$66,000.
mean, they lost money. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's probably the one thing. The other area that was a tough one for me was I didn't look hard enough. I looked. I missed a couple listings, a couple comps. Uh, and again, it was an overpriced listing. The client wanted it there. I thought there was enough data to support it, but I missed some data to really counteract that.
Mhm.
And we were overpriced. Uh, it was their decision, but part of it was I didn't see two sales, which is where nowadays, and this is that you have to fail to succeed
Right.
philosophy is like, I will belabor looking at things in different angles in so many different ways to make sure I'm putting data in different types of ways to make sure I'm not overlooking something
Yeah.
on a listing.
Yeah.
Uh, hey man, this was cool. I appreciate it.
Super cool.
This is I don't know, mistakes that young professionals make trying to get their career started.